You're sitting in the doctor's office, and he just said the word that will change everything. Rabies. You have rabies, not rage, the disease. And the first thing you need to understand is that this isn't like other diseases. It's not like finding out you have diabetes or high blood pressure, things you can control with medication and lifestyle changes. Rabies is different. Rabies is practically a death sentence. In fact, let's be really direct here. It's the most lethal infectious disease that exists. Survival rate after symptoms begin? Less than 1%. You read that right. 99.9% of people who develop rabies symptoms die. Doesn't matter where you are, doesn't matter which hospital, doesn't matter how much money you have. Once symptoms appear, you're basically done. Now you're wondering how this happened. It was probably an animal. Maybe a dog you thought was cute on the street and tried to pet. Maybe a bat that got into your room one night and you didn't even realize it bit you, because bat bites are so small they look like mosquito bites. Maybe a fox that seemed strange, but you didn't think much about it. The rabies virus is in these animal saliva, and when they bite you, the virus enters your body through the wound. But here's the part many people don't know. The virus doesn't go straight to your brain. Not immediately. It travels through your nerves. Slowly. Very slowly. It can take weeks, sometimes months, for the virus to travel the path from peripheral nerves to your spinal cord and finally reach the brain. That's why you might have been bitten 2 months ago and are only finding out now. And that's why there's a window of time where you could have saved yourself. If you had gone to the hospital right after the bite, before symptoms started, they would have given you the post-exposure vaccine. It's a series of injections that basically trains your immune system to fight the virus before it reaches the brain. It works almost 100% of the time. Almost. But you didn't go. Maybe you didn't know you needed to. Maybe the bite seemed insignificant. Maybe you didn't even realize you were bitten. And now you're here, sitting in this room, and the doctor is telling you that symptoms have started. And once symptoms start, there's nothing more they can do. There's no cure. There's no effective treatment. There's only waiting. Waiting for death. The doctor is probably trying to be kind. Probably saying something about keeping you comfortable, about palliative care, about spending your remaining time with your family. But you're barely listening because your brain is trying to process the fact that you have 2 weeks to live. Maybe a bit more if you're lucky. Maybe a bit less. And it won't be a peaceful death. It won't be like falling asleep and not waking up. It's going to be brutal. It's going to be terrifying. Because the rabies virus doesn't kill you gently. It destroys your brain piece by piece, and you'll be conscious during most of it. The first symptoms of rabies are frustrating because they're completely generic. You feel tired, kind of feverish, headache, maybe a bit of nausea. It's basically like the flu. If you didn't know you had rabies, you'd probably think you caught a bad cold and would stay home drinking tea and watching Netflix. But you know what's coming. And then you start to notice something strange at the place where you were bitten. The wound, which had probably already healed weeks ago, starts to tingle. It's not exactly pain. It's more like a strange sensation, like something is moving under the skin. Itching, mild burning. Some patients describe it as an electric tingling sensation. This happens because the virus is in the nerves of that area, and as it multiplies and spreads, it's causing inflammation in the nerve tissues. Your body knows something is wrong there, but can't do anything about it. You may also start to feel anxiety. It's not just anxiety because you know you're going to die, although that obviously doesn't help. It's biological anxiety caused by the virus affecting your brain. You feel restless, can't sit still, can't concentrate on anything. Your heart is racing for no apparent reason. You may start having trouble sleeping. When you finally manage to sleep, you have vivid and disturbing nightmares. You wake up in the middle of the night in cold sweats, heart pounding, not knowing exactly why. During the day, you're irritable. Small things that normally wouldn't bother you now leave you frustrated or even angry. Your family and friends notice you're different, more defensive, more agitated. They probably think it's because you just received a terminal diagnosis, and of course that's part of it. But it's not just that. It's the virus. It's already in your brain now, messing with neurochemistry, altering how you process emotions and react to stimuli. And then comes one of the most characteristic symptoms of rabies, hydrophobia, fear of water. Sounds strange, right? Why would you be afraid of water? But it's not exactly fear in the psychological sense. It's a physical reaction. You try to drink water, and suddenly your throat muscles go into spasm. Violent, painful. You choke, cough, feel like you're suffocating. Your body is literally rejecting water. The virus does this because it wants to spread. Rabies spreads through saliva. And if you keep drinking water normally, you'll dilute the virus concentration in your mouth. So the virus evolved to cause this spasm, this revulsion to water, to keep your saliva concentrated and infectious. It's diabolical when you think about it. The virus is controlling your behavior for its own benefit. But the practical result is that you can't drink. And it's not just water. Any liquid causes the same reaction. Even the sight of water can trigger the spasms. Someone turns on a faucet near you, and instantly your muscles contract. You look away. Your whole body tenses. People around you are confused and disturbed because it seems so irrational, but you can't control it. You also start to have aerophobia, fear of air currents. A light breeze on your face can cause the same kind of spasm as water. Fans become unbearable. Air conditioning makes you panic. It's because the same nerves that control your swallowing are also affected by air moving over your skin. The virus has messed everything up. At this point, you're probably in a hospital. Not because they can do much, but because you need care. You're getting dehydrated because you can't drink. They try to give you intravenous fluids, and that helps a bit, but your body is starting to fail in other ways too. And the most terrifying thing, you're still fully conscious. You know exactly what's happening. Your brain is still working well enough for you to understand your situation. And that's perhaps the cruelest part of rabies. It doesn't make you unconscious early. It makes you watch as you lose control piece by piece. You may be a week into the diagnosis now. The initial symptoms have evolved into something much worse. The virus is spread completely throughout your brain, and now it's causing severe encephalitis. This means massive inflammation of brain tissue. Your brain is swelling inside your skull, and since the skull can't expand, this creates pressure. A lot of pressure. Headaches that were bothersome before are now excruciating. It's like someone is squeezing your head in a vice. Painkillers barely work because the damage is too deep, too structural. You start having hallucinations. Visual ones first. You see shadows moving in the corner of your vision, but when you turn your head, there's nothing there. You see patterns on the walls, shapes forming and dissolving. Sometimes you see people who don't exist. Faces you recognize, but who shouldn't be there. Your brain is processing sensory information incorrectly, filling in gaps with invented data. Auditory hallucinations come after. You hear voices, whispers. Sometimes someone's screaming your name, but when you respond, no one is there. You hear music playing, but there's no source. Sounds that don't make sense, like someone shuffled all the frequencies. Your perception of reality is disintegrating. And then come the seizures. Your whole body contorts and shakes in ways you can't control. Your muscles contract violently. Your jaw locks. You might bite your own tongue. Seizures last a few seconds or a few minutes. And when they finally stop, you're exhausted, confused, not knowing where you are or what happened. Between seizures, you have moments of lucidity. Moments where you perfectly understand what's happening to you. And these moments are almost worse than hallucinations because you're aware of your decline. You try to talk to your family, but the words come out wrong. You know what you want to say, but your mouth doesn't cooperate. Words get jumbled. Sometimes you can't even form words, just sounds. Your family is crying. You see the despair on their faces and want to comfort them, but you can't anymore. You can't even hold their hand properly because your motor control is going away. You start producing massive amounts of saliva, drooling constantly. Can't swallow because remember, your swallowing muscles are in spasm. So saliva just runs from your mouth, soaking your pillow, your clothes. And this saliva is loaded with virus. It's highly infectious. Anyone who comes into contact with it is at risk. That's why rabies spreads so efficiently in nature. Rabid animals drool, bite, and transmit the virus. You're also becoming agitated in ways you can't control. Some rabies patients enter a state called furious rabies, where they become extremely aggressive. Try to bite people, attack anyone who approaches. It's not because you want to hurt someone. It's the virus. It has taken control of the aggression centers in your brain. You are literally no longer yourself. Other patients develop paralytic rabies, where instead of agitation, there's progressive weakness. Your muscles simply stop responding. You become paralyzed, unable to move, but still conscious. Still feeling everything. Still trapped inside a body that no longer works. Both forms lead to the same place. Both end in death. It's just a matter of which path you'll take to get there. At this point, you're probably in intensive care, heavily sedated, not for cure, but for mercy, to reduce suffering, to give you some peace in your last days. But even sedated, your brain is still being destroyed. The virus doesn't stop. It doesn't slow down. It continues replicating, continues killing brain cells until there's nothing left to destroy. You're somewhere between day 10 and day 14 now. Could be a bit earlier, could be a bit later. Every case is different, but the outcome is always the same. Your brain is devastated. The encephalitis is so severe that critical structures are failing. The brainstem, which controls basic functions like breathing and heart rate, is starting to shut down. Your breathing becomes irregular, fast and shallow for a while, then slow and deep, then stops completely for a few seconds before resuming. It's a pattern called Cheyne-Stokes breathing, and it's a sign that the end is near. Your heart is also becoming irregular, beating very fast and then very slow, skipping beats. Your blood pressure is dropping because the brain centers that regulate the cardiovascular system no longer work properly. Your kidneys are starting to fail. Your liver is compromised. Your whole body is going into multiple organ failure. Not because the virus directly infected those organs, but because the brain is no longer sending the right signals. Your body doesn't know how to function anymore. You're probably no longer conscious at this point. Sedation is heavy, and even without it, your brain is too damaged to support consciousness. You might be in a coma, or in some state of semi-consciousness where there are no real thoughts, just fragmented sensations. Pain, confusion, darkness, and then, finally, your breathing stops. Your heart gives a few final beats and then falls silent. There's no more measurable brain activity. You died. The official cause of death will probably be listed as respiratory failure or cardiac arrest, but the real cause is rabies encephalitis. The virus killed your brain, and the rest of your body followed. From the moment the first symptoms appeared until your death, probably between 10 and 14 days passed. 2 weeks of progressive neurological decline. 2 weeks of losing your humanity piece by piece. 2 weeks of suffering in ways most people will never experience. And the most tragic part? All of this could have been prevented. If you had gone to the hospital right after the bite, before symptoms, a simple series of vaccines would have saved you. The rabies post-exposure vaccine is one of the most effective medical interventions that exists. It works almost 100% of the time when administered correctly and on time. But once symptoms start, there's no turning back. The window has closed, and rabies kills about 59,000 people a year worldwide. 59,000 people who could have been saved if they had received treatment in time. Most of these deaths happen in rural areas of developing countries where access to vaccines is limited and awareness about rabies is low. But it happens everywhere. It happens in developed countries too, because people don't know. Don't know that almost invisible bat bite can be lethal. Don't know that cute street dog might be carrying a virus that will kill them horribly. Don't know they only have a limited window of time to act. So let's talk about how you never want to be in this situation. Because rabies is terrifying, but it's also almost totally preventable if you know what to do. First, if you're bitten by any animal, especially a wild animal or a stray animal, go to the hospital immediately. Don't wait. Don't think, oh, it's just a small scratch. Don't try to clean the wound at home and forget about it. Go to the hospital. The doctor will assess the risk and, if necessary, start post-exposure prophylaxis. This is usually a series of 4 injections over 2 weeks, plus a dose of rabies immune globulin that's injected around the wound. Yes, it's multiple injections. No, it's not cheap in places where you have to pay for medical treatment. But it's infinitely better than dying of rabies. The injections used to be much worse. Years ago, they were applied to the abdomen and were extremely painful. Now they're applied to the arm like any other vaccine and are relatively painless. There's no excuse not to seek treatment. Second, be aware of which animals carry rabies in your region. In many countries, dogs are the main vector. In others, it's bats, foxes, raccoons. If you see a wild animal acting strangely, like approaching humans without fear, drooling excessively, seeming disoriented, don't get close. Don't try to help. Don't try to pet it. Call animal control. Third, vaccinate your pets. Seriously, the rabies vaccine for dogs and cats is super effective and is one of the best ways to create a barrier between the virus in wildlife and you. If your dog is vaccinated and is bitten by a rabid animal, it will probably be fine, and it won't transmit the virus to you. It's a critical layer of protection. Fourth, if you work in a high-risk area, like veterinary medicine, animal control, or if you frequently travel to regions where rabies is common, consider pre-exposure vaccination. Yes, you can get vaccinated against rabies before even being exposed. The vaccine isn't a 100% guarantee that you'll never need post-exposure treatment. but it dramatically reduces the number of doses you'll need if you're bitten, and it can buy crucial time. Fifth, educate people around you, especially children. Children love animals and often don't have the instinct to stay away from unknown animals. Teach them to never touch stray or wild animals. Teach that if they're bitten or scratched, they need to tell an adult immediately, even if it doesn't seem serious. And here's something many people don't know. You could be exposed to rabies without realizing it. That's especially if you wake up and find a bat in your room. Even if you don't see any bite, you should seek treatment. Bat bites are so small you might not notice, and bats are one of the main rabies vectors in many places. Better safe than sorry. Comment below if you've had any close experience with rabies or know someone who went through post-exposure prophylaxis. It's more common than you imagine. Subscribe to the channel because we'll continue exploring topics like this, things you hope to never experience but need to understand. Leave a like if you learned something new today. Share with someone who needs to hear this because knowledge about rabies literally saves lives. And most importantly, be careful out there. Rabies is rare in many places, but it still exists. And when it happens, it's absolutely devastating. Don't become a statistic. If you're bitten, seek treatment. It's that simple. Subscribe for more.